The day began like any other for the young pianist. He arrived early at the grand concert hall, carrying only a small bag with his sheet music and a simple notebook filled with compositions he had been working on for months. The hall was enormous, with towering ceilings, sparkling chandeliers, and rows upon rows of polished wooden seats that reflected the morning sunlight streaming through the tall windows. For most people, this would be an inspiring place, but for him, it was just another stage that seemed a little too big for someone who had spent most of his life quietly practicing in small rooms at home. He had been asked to help with preparations that morning. The staff at the hall were busy organizing instruments, arranging chairs, and checking sound systems. He was given the task of tidying the stage, a simple job that involved moving chairs into straight lines, arranging music stands neatly, and making sure the area looked clean and ready for the performers. As he worked, he noticed other musicians arriving, their expensive clothes and confident manner making him feel even smaller. They laughed and talked among themselves, sharing jokes about past performances and upcoming competitions, never noticing the quiet young man moving diligently behind them. He did not mind that people overlooked him. He had long grown used to being underestimated. Ever since he was a child, people had assumed that he was not capable of performing on big stages, that his talent was only a private thing, meant for family and friends. But he knew differently. He had spent countless hours alone, practicing difficult pieces until his fingers moved, as if they had a mind of their own, learning to feel the music rather than just play the notes. Music had always been his way of speaking when words were not enough. As he straightened a row of chairs, he heard a few comments from some of the other staff members. "He's just here to clean up," one said. "I doubt he can even play a real piece," another added, laughing. The young pianist kept working silently, feeling a mix of irritation and determination. They did not see what he saw in music, the depth of feeling and the power it could hold. They only saw someone doing a menial task. But deep inside, he held on to the quiet knowledge that his moment would come, even if he did not yet know when. While arranging the stage, he took a moment to glance at the grand piano at the center. It was a beautiful instrument, gleaming under the soft lights of the hall. He imagined his fingers gliding over the keys, bringing the notes to life, filling the empty space with music that could move anyone who heard it. The thought made his heart beat a little faster, a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. He knew that one day someone would notice his talent, and he would have the chance to show them what he could really do. Time passed slowly. Musicians came and went, tuning instruments, checking sound levels, and practicing small sections of their pieces. The young pianist continued to tidy the stage, adjusting a stand here, moving a chair there, his eyes occasionally drifting toward the piano. He imagined the hall filled with the sound of a grand performance, the audience sitting silently, completely captivated by the music. It was a dream he had held for a long time, a dream that sometimes felt distant but never impossible. As the morning progressed, a few of the more experienced performers noticed him working. One of them, a violinist, smirked and whispered something to another, clearly amused by the fact that someone so young was given such a simple task. But the young pianist did not let it affect him. He had learned long ago that the opinions of others were not as important as his own dedication and love for music. He focused on his work, making sure every stand and chair was perfectly in place, imagining that each small action was part of a larger preparation for something extraordinary. During a short break, he sat near the piano and quietly hummed a melody he had composed the night before. His fingers hovered over the keys, not touching them, just imagining the flow of the music. The notes in his mind were precise, powerful, and filled with emotion. It was a private moment, but it reminded him why he spent so many hours practicing, why he remained patient despite being overlooked. Music was his language, his way of expressing thoughts and feelings that words could not capture. As more people entered the hall, the young pianist noticed the nervous energy in the air. Performers were warming up, discussing pieces, and adjusting their instruments. He continued to tidy the stage, carefully moving each item as if he were arranging a piece of art. Every chair, every stand, every little detail mattered. He knew that a well-prepared stage could set the tone for an unforgettable performance, even if no one realized the effort behind it. Suddenly, a stage manager walked by and asked him to adjust the lighting a bit. He did so promptly, climbing carefully onto a small ladder to make the changes. As he worked, he felt a strange sense of calm, a quiet confidence that came from knowing he was ready for the moment when his chance would arrive. He could almost hear the applause, the gasps of amazement, the recognition that had eluded him for so long. It was a vision that kept him going, even while performing simple tasks that others considered beneath him. Lunchtime came and went, and the young pianist remained focused on the stage. He moved chairs, straightened music sheets, and wiped down the surfaces. His hands were busy, but his mind was filled with music. Every small action he took seemed connected to something greater, as if the universe itself was preparing the stage for him, not just the instruments and chairs. By mid-afternoon, the hall was nearly ready. The performers had completed their rehearsals, the staff had finished organizing everything, and the stage looked perfect. The young pianist took a step back and looked at his work. It was immaculate, every detail carefully attended to. For a moment, he allowed himself a small smile, satisfied with the precision and care he had put into preparing the space. He knew that the real test would come soon, though he did not yet realize just how soon or how dramatically his life was about to change. As he adjusted the last chair, a few of the performers walked past and finally took notice of him. "Hey, you've been working hard," one said with a small nod. "Yeah," another added. "Nice job tidying up." They meant it as a casual remark, but to him, it felt like the smallest hint of acknowledgement, a tiny crack in the wall of invisibility that had surrounded him for so long. He nodded politely and continued his work, not letting the fleeting recognition distract him from the preparation that still needed to be done. By late afternoon, the hall was quiet, the performers gone backstage, and the stage manager busy with final checks. The young pianist stood near the piano, imagining the moment when he would finally be able to sit down and play. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of anticipation mixed with excitement. For years, he had dreamed of this opportunity, and though it had not arrived in the way he had expected, it was here nonetheless. He looked around the hall one last time before sitting at the piano. The chairs were straight, the music stands aligned, and the stage was spotless. Every detail reflected his careful attention and dedication. It was more than just tidying. It was preparation for greatness, even if no one else saw it yet. The young pianist knew that the stage, once merely a place to move chairs, could soon become a place where his music would touch hearts, inspire minds, and leave a lasting impression on everyone who heard it. He ran his fingers lightly over the keys, feeling the cool smoothness of the piano beneath his touch. The notes that came to mind were vivid and full of emotion, a reflection of all the years he had spent practicing in silence, unnoticed but never discouraged. He closed his eyes and imagined the sound filling the hall, reaching every corner, captivating every listener. The dream that had sustained him for so long felt within reach, and for the first time that day, he allowed himself to feel hope, excitement, and the quiet certainty that something extraordinary was about to happen. Even as he tidied and arranged, he felt ready for the moment he had always known would come. The stage, once a simple area to clean, had become a place of possibility, a space where he could finally show the world who he really was. And as he took one last glance around, he whispered to himself, almost as if to convince the empty hall, "Soon they will hear me. Soon they will understand." And with that thought, he stepped back from his task for a brief moment, unaware that the ordinary day of tidying a stage was about to transform into a moment that would change his life forever. The hall was quiet now, filled only with the soft hum of air conditioning and the distant murmur of people preparing backstage. The young pianist continued to adjust music stands and chairs, though his mind was no longer on the tidying itself. Instead, he thought about the performers who had arrived that day. They had arrived in style, dressed in elegant clothes, confident and assured in their talent. They had laughed at him earlier, whispering jokes as if he were invisible, and he had ignored them. Yet, a small part of him still felt the sting of being underestimated. It was not a new feeling, but it was one that he knew would motivate him in the moments ahead. As he straightened a chair, he overheard a conversation between the stage manager and one of the lead musicians. Something had gone wrong with the schedule. A performer who was supposed to play a critical piece had fallen ill and would not be able to perform. Panic rippled through the staff, and they began scrambling to find a replacement. The young pianist froze for a moment, his heart racing. He had never been asked to perform on such a grand stage, and yet the opportunity seemed to appear out of nowhere, as if fate had decided to test him. He stood silently, pretending to continue his work, but he could not hide his racing thoughts. This was the moment he had imagined countless times during long nights of practice, sitting alone at a small piano at home. He had pictured himself playing in front of an audience, the notes carrying his emotions and touching the hearts of everyone listening. And now, without warning, that imaginary moment was becoming real. The realization both excited and terrified him. The stage manager noticed his hesitation and approached him. "Do you play piano?" he asked, glancing at the grand piano at the center of the stage. The young pianist nodded, keeping his expression calm, even though his hands were trembling slightly. "Can you step in for the performance?" the manager asked, urgency in his voice. The hall was full of musicians who had prepared for weeks. Yet here he was, a young man who had been tidying chairs, being offered the chance of a lifetime. He hesitated, his mind racing through the possibilities. What if he made a mistake? What if the audience laughed? What if he disappointed not just himself but everyone who might be watching? Yet, beneath the fear, a deep sense of readiness emerged. He had practiced difficult pieces for years, imagining precisely this kind of moment. The thought steadied him. He took a deep breath and nodded, his decision made. This was his chance, and he would not let it slip away. Backstage, he was surrounded by curious glances. Musicians who had never paid him any attention now watched him closely. Some were skeptical, whispering to each other, questioning whether someone so young and seemingly inexperienced could rise to the occasion. Others simply waited silently, unsure of what to expect. The young pianist felt the weight of their eyes but refused to let it shake him. Instead, he focused on the music, visualizing every note, every pause, every dramatic moment of the piece he was about to perform. He walked toward the piano, each step echoing slightly in the empty hall. The polished wood of the instrument gleamed under the soft stage lights. As he sat down, he placed his fingers lightly on the keys, feeling the smooth surface beneath his touch. The hall was silent, yet the young pianist could sense the tension in the air, the quiet anticipation that something extraordinary was about to happen. He closed his eyes briefly, taking a deep breath, and let himself become completely present in the moment. The first notes flowed from his fingers effortlessly. They were precise, full of emotion, and yet carried a subtle power that seemed to command the attention of everyone in the hall. The music was operatic, grand, and sweeping, filling the space with a richness that no one had anticipated. Even the musicians who had doubted him felt their eyes widen in surprise, their skepticism replaced with awe. Every key he pressed seemed to tell a story, conveying feelings words could never capture. The audience, though initially silent, leaned in, caught by the beauty and intensity of his performance. He played with a mixture of technique and emotion that reflected years of practice in solitude. His fingers moved as if they had a life of their own, dancing across the keys with confidence and grace. The music rose and fell, dramatic and tender in turns, and the young pianist felt a sense of connection with every note. It was as if the stage, once merely a place to tidy and arrange, had transformed into a conduit for his passion and talent. For the first time in a long time, he felt seen, not as someone overlooked or underestimated, but as a musician capable of inspiring and moving others. As the piece continued, the hall seemed to disappear around him. He was no longer aware of the stage, the staff, or the audience. All that mattered was the music and the emotions it carried. Memories of years spent practicing alone came flooding back. The long nights of perfecting difficult passages, the moments of frustration and doubt, and the quiet determination that had kept him going. Every ounce of effort he had invested up to this point seemed to find its expression in the notes that flowed from his fingers. Backstage, the stage manager watched in disbelief. He had never expected someone who had been tidying chairs to command such attention and skill. The other musicians, too, were captivated. Some exchanged glances, silently acknowledging the remarkable talent they had overlooked for so long. The young pianist, fully absorbed in the music, remained unaware of the profound impact he was having on everyone around him. For him, this was not about recognition or praise. It was about sharing the music that had lived inside him for so many years. As the final notes echoed through the hall, a profound silence followed. The audience seemed frozen for a brief moment, absorbing the beauty of what they had just witnessed. Then, slowly, applause began to rise, first tentative, then growing louder and more enthusiastic. Standing ovations erupted, some audience members even rising from their seats. The young pianist lifted his hands from the keys, his heart pounding, and opened his eyes to see the astonished faces around him. What had started as a simple task of tidying the stage had become an unforgettable performance that no one would soon forget. The stage manager hurried toward him, a look of amazement and relief on his face. "That was incredible," he exclaimed. The young pianist simply nodded, still absorbing the moment. He had done what he had always dreamed of, but the reality of it was even more powerful than he had imagined. Around him, people who had once doubted him now looked with admiration and respect. For a brief moment, the world seemed to shift, recognizing the talent that had always been there, quietly waiting for its chance to shine. As the applause continued, the young pianist felt a mixture of emotions: relief, pride, and a deep sense of fulfillment. The music had spoken for him when words could not, conveying all the passion, dedication, and hope that had carried him to this moment. He realized that the ordinary task he had been assigned, the tidying of the stage, had been a preparation in its own way. It had kept him focused, patient, and ready for the opportunity that fate had presented. The rest of the day passed in a blur of congratulations, handshakes, and astonished expressions. People who had never noticed him before now sought him out, eager to hear more about his background and his approach to music. He answered politely, humble yet quietly proud, knowing that this performance was only the beginning. The experience had changed him in a way nothing else could, giving him confidence and a renewed sense of purpose. That evening, as he walked home, he replayed the performance in his mind. The stage, once a place for mundane work, had become a platform for his talent and a testament to the years of quiet dedication he had invested in his craft. He understood now that sometimes opportunities come disguised as ordinary tasks, waiting for the right person to recognize their potential and seize them. He felt grateful not only for the chance to perform but also for the journey that had led him there. He knew that this day would be remembered for a long time, not just by the audience and the musicians but by him as well. It was the moment when the world saw him as he truly was, a pianist capable of extraordinary expression, passion, and artistry. And though he had faced doubt, underestimation, and the challenge of stepping into the unknown, he had emerged not only successful but transformed, ready to embrace the opportunities that lay ahead. The young pianist sat quietly backstage, his hands folded in his lap as he watched the performers prepare. The energy was electric, musicians tuning their instruments, stagehands moving props, and a few nervous whispers about who would play next. He could feel his heart beating faster with each passing moment. Though he had played the piano for years, the weight of performing on such a large stage in front of so many people was a feeling he had never experienced before. This was no longer a simple practice session at home. This was real, and the stakes felt impossibly high. He had been offered the chance to fill in for the performer who could not make it. At first, he had hesitated, imagining all the ways it could go wrong. What if he forgot a note? What if the audience was unimpressed? The thought of failure gnawed at him, but alongside it came a stronger feeling: excitement. The kind of excitement that made his stomach flutter and his hands tingle, reminding him why he had spent countless hours learning and practicing. He had to take this chance, even if the fear tried to hold him back. Nearby, the stage manager approached and handed him a copy of the sheet music. "You're ready for this, aren't you?" the manager asked, his tone a mix of hope and anxiety. The young pianist nodded. He felt a quiet determination settling inside him. This was the moment he had imagined for so long, and even though he had never played for such an audience before, he knew he could rise to the occasion. He opened the sheet music, scanning the notes quickly but carefully, visualizing each chord, each pause, each rise and fall of the melody. Backstage, other musicians cast curious glances his way. Some were skeptical, unsure if someone who had been tidying chairs all morning could perform at a professional level. Others were quietly intrigued, sensing a potential that went beyond appearances. The young pianist could feel their eyes on him, but he chose not to let it affect his focus. Instead, he took a deep breath and centered himself, reminding himself of all the hours he had spent practicing alone, learning to trust his fingers and listen to the music in his heart. He walked toward the piano, his steps slow and deliberate. Each step brought a mixture of fear and anticipation. The stage lights shone down on the polished surface of the instrument, making it gleam as if it were inviting him to play. He sat down carefully, letting his hands hover above the keys for a moment, feeling the smooth texture and imagining the first notes filling the hall. The audience beyond the stage had begun to settle into their seats, unaware of the young pianist who was about to transform the evening. As he prepared to start, he felt a surge of memories flood his mind. He remembered practicing late at night, the small living room at home filled with the quiet hum of the piano. He remembered the times he had struggled to master difficult passages, the frustration, the moments of doubt, and the determination that had kept him going. Every mistake, every repetition, every note learned by heart had led to this very moment. He felt a deep gratitude for the journey, knowing that it had prepared him for what was about to happen. The stage manager gave him a nod, signaling that it was time to begin. The young pianist took one last breath and allowed himself to feel the music inside him. He could almost hear it before his fingers touched the keys. A melody filled with emotion, intensity, and drama. He knew that the music was not just about technical skill. It was about conveying feelings, telling a story without words, and connecting with everyone who would hear it. He allowed that thought to calm him, turning the nervous energy into focused determination. He pressed the first key, and the note rang out clearly, resonating through the hall. The young pianist felt a wave of confidence wash over him. The sound was exactly as he had imagined. Strong, pure, and filled with emotion. The music began to flow naturally, each note following the next, creating a melody that rose and fell with precision and grace. He felt completely immersed in the performance, as if the world around him had disappeared and only the piano and the music existed. Backstage, the musicians who had been skeptical watched in amazement. The young pianist's fingers moved with skill and elegance, expressing emotions they had never expected. His technique was flawless, and the operatic quality of the piece captured the drama and intensity of the story behind the music. Even the stage manager, who had organized countless performances, could not believe what he was witnessing. The young pianist, once overlooked and underestimated, was commanding the stage with a presence that seemed larger than the hall itself. As he played, the young pianist felt a deep connection with the music. It was not just about hitting the right notes. It was about conveying a story, a journey of struggle, hope, and triumph. Each chord, each pause, each dynamic change carried meaning, and he could feel the audience responding, even from behind the closed curtains. He could sense their attention, their curiosity turning into awe, and it gave him strength. The music was no longer a practice exercise. It was alive, powerful, and moving everyone who heard it. He remembered the quiet moments at home, when he had imagined playing in front of a grand audience. He had often wondered if anyone would ever truly appreciate his music, if the years of dedication would ever be recognized. Now, as the hall filled with sound, he realized that those years had been worth every sacrifice. The preparation, the patience, the quiet determination, they all led to this moment of connection, this chance to touch hearts with his talent. The young pianist allowed himself to take small risks within the piece, adding subtle variations that showcased his creativity and emotional depth. He played with intention, letting each note linger when needed, and building tension in other parts of the melody. The music was expressive and vivid, as if painting pictures with sound. It was a performance that required courage, confidence, and a deep understanding of the piece, and he possessed all three. He had prepared in solitude, and now his preparation was bearing fruit in the most remarkable way. Backstage, whispers of astonishment circulated among the performers. Those who had doubted him were now silent, captivated by the skill and artistry of someone they had dismissed earlier. They could see the passion in his posture, the precision in his fingers, and the emotion in every note. The young pianist remained focused, unaware of the growing admiration around him, his mind entirely absorbed by the music. He was fully present in the moment, letting the performance carry him forward. The hall seemed to come alive with the music. The acoustics enhanced every note, and the resonance filled every corner, reaching even those seated far from the stage. The young pianist felt a sense of power and connection unlike anything he had experienced before. He was no longer simply performing. He was communicating, expressing a story, and sharing a part of himself with everyone who listened. The fear and doubt that had accompanied him moments ago were replaced with clarity and purpose. As he reached the final section of the piece, the young pianist felt a surge of emotion. The music became more dramatic, more intense, building to a crescendo that would leave a lasting impression. His fingers moved faster, more confidently, yet with control, ensuring that every note resonated perfectly. He could feel the energy of the hall, the anticipation of the audience, and he responded with even greater focus and passion. This was the culmination of all his practice, all his dedication, all his silent dreaming. The last chord rang out, echoing through the hall with a sense of finality and grandeur. The young pianist lifted his hands from the keys and sat back for a moment, letting the sound linger. Silence followed for a heartbeat, then applause erupted. The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering, some with tears in their eyes. The young pianist looked around, feeling a mix of relief, pride, and joy. He had faced the challenge, embraced the opportunity, and transformed an ordinary task into a moment of greatness. Backstage, the stage manager and fellow performers approached him with wide smiles and admiration. "That was incredible," someone exclaimed. "I've never seen anything like it," another said. The young pianist smiled quietly, his heart full. He had done more than just play a piece of music. He had shared a part of himself, touched the audience, and proven that dedication and talent could shine even in unexpected circumstances. As the applause continued and the audience gradually settled, the young pianist reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The hours of practice, the moments of doubt, the quiet determination to continue despite being overlooked. All of it had led to this unforgettable moment. He realized that sometimes, opportunities appear in unexpected ways, and those who are patient, prepared, and willing to take a risk can transform ordinary moments into extraordinary achievements. That night, as he walked home, the young pianist felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything he had experienced before. He had faced fear, embraced the unknown, and emerged victorious, not only in the eyes of the audience but in his own. The experience had taught him that true talent is not measured by recognition alone, but by the ability to seize the moment when it arrives and to share one's passion with courage and authenticity. He knew that this performance would stay with him forever, a defining moment in a journey that was only just beginning. The young pianist sat at the grand piano, hands poised over the keys, feeling the weight of the moment. The audience had grown silent, all eyes and ears focused on him, waiting for the first note. For a moment, he let the stillness sink in, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. He could feel the anticipation in the room, the subtle shuffling of feet, the quiet coughs, the rustle of programs. All of it seemed to fade away as he let himself connect completely with the music. The first chord sounded, clear and strong, filling the hall with a richness that seemed almost tangible. The young pianist felt a rush of confidence and joy as the notes flowed from his fingers. Each sound carried emotion, weaving a story of passion, struggle, and hope. The operatic piece was demanding, filled with intricate passages and dramatic shifts, yet he played with grace and control. His years of practice and his deep connection to the music became evident in every movement of his hands, every subtle shift in dynamics, and every pause that added tension and meaning. The audience, initially skeptical, was captivated. They leaned forward, drawn in by the beauty and power of the performance. Those who had come expecting a simple replacement act found themselves mesmerized by the skill and emotion that radiated from the stage. The music spoke for itself, transcending words and expectations, and creating an atmosphere of awe and admiration. As the young pianist continued, he felt the music guiding him. His fingers danced across the keys, executing complex runs with precision while maintaining an emotional depth that made the performance unforgettable. The hall seemed to respond to the music, the acoustics enhancing every note, carrying the melody to the farthest corners of the audience. He became fully immersed, forgetting everything else and letting the piano become an extension of his soul. Backstage, the musicians who had once doubted him were stunned. They watched silently, recognizing the extraordinary talent before them. Their skepticism had vanished, replaced by admiration and respect. Even the stage manager, who had seen countless performances, could hardly believe the skill and passion he was witnessing. The young pianist's quiet determination had transformed into a commanding presence, and the stage that had seemed ordinary just hours before was now alive with energy and brilliance. The piece reached its middle section, a series of rapid, intricate passages that demanded both technical skill and emotional expression. The young pianist executed each note flawlessly, the music rising and falling with a dramatic intensity that left the audience breathless. He felt the power of the performance in every fiber of his being, knowing that this was not just about playing notes but about telling a story, sharing a part of himself, and connecting with everyone listening. As the hall absorbed the music, the young pianist allowed himself to take risks, adding subtle improvisations that enhanced the expressiveness of the piece. Each variation was carefully considered, bringing nuance and depth to the performance. He could feel the audience responding, sensing their engagement even without seeing their faces. The energy of the room flowed into his playing, creating a feedback loop of emotion and artistry that made the moment feel electric and alive. The dramatic climaxes of the piece approached, and the young pianist played with even greater intensity. The keys seemed to respond to his every thought, carrying his emotions outward. The music became a dialogue between him and the audience, a shared experience that transcended language and background. He felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that all his years of dedication had prepared him for this. Each note was not just a sound but a message, an expression of hope, determination, and the beauty of music itself. As the performance neared its conclusion, the young pianist's hands moved with precision and fluidity, bringing the piece to a powerful climax. The audience was completely absorbed, some leaning forward, others closing their eyes to fully immerse themselves in the music. The hall seemed to hold its breath as the final notes approached, the tension building until the very last moment. Finally, the last chord resonated through the hall, lingering in the air like a gentle echo. The young pianist lifted his hands from the keys, his heart pounding with exhilaration. Silence followed for a heartbeat, then the room erupted into applause. The audience stood, clapping and cheering, some with tears in their eyes, others smiling with sheer amazement. The young pianist allowed himself a small smile, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and joy. He had done it. He had transformed what began as a simple task, tidying the stage, into a performance that no one would forget. Backstage, the stage manager rushed forward, his expression one of awe. "That was incredible," he exclaimed. Other performers joined, offering congratulations and praise. The young pianist nodded quietly, his modesty intact but his heart full. He had proven to himself, and now to the world, that talent, dedication, and passion could shine even in unexpected moments. He took a moment to reflect on the journey that had led him here. The hours spent practicing alone, the moments of doubt, the quiet determination to continue despite being underestimated. All of it had prepared him for this unforgettable experience. He realized that the stage, once just a place to tidy, had become a space where his music could truly speak, a platform that allowed him to share his talent and touch the hearts of many. The applause continued, echoing through the hall and filling him with a sense of accomplishment. He looked around, noticing the astonished faces of both the audience and fellow musicians. Their respect and admiration were tangible, but more importantly, he felt a deep personal satisfaction. This was not just recognition. It was confirmation that his perseverance and love for music had led him to a moment of true artistic expression. As the evening went on, people approached him with compliments and questions. They wanted to know more about his background, his training, and his approach to music. He answered politely, maintaining his humble demeanor, but inside, he felt a quiet pride. This performance had been more than an opportunity. It had been a breakthrough, a turning point that would shape the future of his musical journey. Walking home later that night, the young pianist replayed the performance in his mind. He remembered every note, every pause, and every moment of connection with the audience. He understood that this experience was unique, a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary moments arise from the most ordinary beginnings. The act of tidying the stage, once considered mundane, had led to an unforgettable performance that would be remembered by all who witnessed it. He thought about the lessons he had learned: patience, dedication, and the courage to seize unexpected opportunities. Talent alone was not enough. It required readiness, persistence, and the willingness to step into the unknown. As he walked under the city lights, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that this was only the beginning. The applause, the admiration, and the personal satisfaction would remain with him, fueling his determination to continue growing as a musician. That night, he realized that greatness often appears when least expected. The world may overlook someone, underestimate their abilities, and dismiss their potential, but true talent has a way of shining through, especially when the individual is prepared and willing to embrace the moment. He felt a deep gratitude for the journey, for the practice, for the patience, and for the chance that had been given to him. It was a reminder that every effort, no matter how small or unnoticed at the time, could contribute to something extraordinary. The young pianist closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the echo of the performance still lingering in his mind. The stage had transformed, the music had soared, and he had finally experienced the culmination of years of dedication. As he continued home, he smiled, knowing that the memory of this performance would remain a source of inspiration, confidence, and motivation for the years to come. It was a night when the ordinary became extraordinary, when a simple act of preparation led to an unforgettable operatic piano performance, and when the world saw, for the first time, the true brilliance of a quiet, dedicated musician. The young pianist slowly rose from the piano bench, his hands still tingling from the final notes of the performance. The applause was still echoing through the hall, louder now, sustained and enthusiastic. He felt a mixture of exhilaration and disbelief, unable to fully comprehend what had just happened. What began as a simple task of tidying the stage had transformed into a moment that would change his life. He looked around at the audience, seeing expressions of amazement, joy, and admiration. Some were wiping tears from their eyes, others were standing, clapping with open-mouthed surprise. Every face reflected the impact of the music he had shared. Backstage, the stage manager and performers gathered around him, their reactions filled with awe and respect. "That was beyond incredible," the stage manager said, his voice shaking slightly with emotion. The other musicians nodded, some leaning forward to shake his hand, others whispering their amazement to each other. The young pianist nodded humbly, grateful for the recognition but still feeling a sense of wonder at the moment. He had always dreamed of this, yet the reality was far more powerful than any imagined scenario. People began to approach him, asking questions about his background, his training, and how he had prepared for the music. He explained modestly, focusing on his dedication and love for piano rather than boasting about his skill. Despite his humility, he could sense a shift in the way people now viewed him. The quiet, unassuming young man who had spent the morning tidying the stage was suddenly the center of attention, respected for his talent and artistry. It was a moment that highlighted the contrast between how people perceive others and the hidden potential that lies within them. As he accepted congratulations, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. Years of solitary practice, nights spent perfecting difficult passages, and moments of doubt and perseverance had all contributed to his success. He realized that these experiences were not wasted. They had shaped him into the musician he was and prepared him to seize this opportunity. The applause and recognition were rewarding, but the deeper satisfaction came from knowing that his dedication had paid off and that he had fully expressed the music that lived within him. After a short break, the young pianist was asked to give a brief interview backstage. The reporters were eager to know about the story behind the performance, how he had come to be in this unexpected position, and how it felt to captivate an audience with such a display of skill and emotion. He spoke honestly, sharing his journey of learning, practice, and perseverance. He emphasized the importance of passion and dedication, explaining that the music itself had been his guide. The reporters were captivated, and their questions reflected genuine curiosity and admiration rather than mere fascination with the unexpected nature of his performance. Outside the hall, word of the performance began to spread quickly. Social media posts and news articles highlighted the incredible story of the young pianist, who had turned a simple chore into a breathtaking musical experience. Comments from readers and viewers praised his skill, humility, and dedication, expressing surprise at how someone overlooked could produce such extraordinary talent. The young pianist, while overwhelmed by the attention, remained focused on the music itself, understanding that the performance was not about fame, but about sharing something meaningful with others. In the following days, invitations and opportunities began to pour in. Music schools, concert organizers, and professional musicians reached out, expressing interest in collaborating or supporting him in future performances. It was a whirlwind of activity, yet he handled it with calm and thoughtful consideration, taking each opportunity seriously and reflecting on how it aligned with his personal goals. The recognition he received was not just validation of his talent, but also a reminder of the importance of staying true to his passion and values. As he walked through the city streets after the performance, he thought about the people who had doubted him, the moments of underestimation he had faced, and the perseverance it had taken to reach this point. He realized that their disbelief had only strengthened his resolve, giving him the motivation to continue working hard and believing in his abilities. The contrast between being overlooked and suddenly celebrated highlighted the unpredictable nature of life and the power of talent, patience, and readiness. The young pianist also reflected on the power of small, seemingly ordinary actions. Tidying the stage had seemed mundane, but it had prepared him mentally and physically for the opportunity that arose. It had kept him focused, disciplined, and aware of his surroundings. He understood that success often depends not just on skill, but on preparation, patience, and the ability to recognize and embrace unexpected chances. This insight would guide him in the future, shaping the way he approached both music and life. He took a moment to consider the audience's reaction. The connection he had felt with them was profound, and he realized that music had the power to touch people in ways words could not. The emotions he had conveyed through his performance, hope, struggle, determination, and beauty, had resonated with those listening. It was a reminder of why he had devoted himself to music, and it strengthened his desire to continue sharing his gift with others. In the days that followed, he practiced with renewed energy, knowing that his talent had been recognized but also understanding that he could not rely solely on one performance. The experience had opened doors, but it was his continued dedication and growth that would define his future. Each day of practice, each careful study of technique and emotion, became a step toward further mastery and deeper connection with the music. The recognition was gratifying, but the true reward was in the ongoing journey of learning and expression. Friends and family who had supported him quietly for years celebrated his success, sharing in the joy of his achievement. They understood the years of hard work and the challenges he had faced, and their pride and happiness added to the sense of fulfillment he felt. He realized that while talent is important, the support of those who believe in you, even quietly, can make a significant difference in one's journey. Their encouragement had helped sustain him through difficult times, and had made this moment of recognition even sweeter. The young pianist also took time to reflect on humility. Despite the applause and accolades, he remained grounded, recognizing that this performance, while extraordinary, was just one of many steps in a lifelong pursuit of musical excellence. He understood that every performance, every opportunity, was a chance to grow, to learn, and to connect with others through the universal language of music. His perspective on success was shaped not only by recognition but by the joy of sharing his gift and the satisfaction of personal achievement. He continued to receive invitations to perform in various venues, and each opportunity brought new challenges and learning experiences. The memory of the performance that began with tidying the stage remained vivid, a reminder of how quickly circumstances can change and how readiness and courage can turn unexpected moments into life-changing experiences. He approached each new opportunity with the same dedication, focus, and respect for the music, knowing that true mastery is a continuous journey rather than a single event. The young pianist also began mentoring other aspiring musicians, sharing his experiences and encouraging them to pursue their passion with patience and dedication. He emphasized the importance of perseverance, practice, and belief in oneself, highlighting that talent alone is not enough without commitment and readiness to embrace opportunities when they arise. His story became a source of inspiration, showing that even overlooked individuals can achieve greatness when they combine skill, preparation, and courage. As he reflected on the experience, he realized that the applause and recognition were meaningful, but the deeper satisfaction came from personal growth and the connection he had made with the audience. The performance had been a turning point, not just in terms of public recognition but in his understanding of his own capabilities and potential. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that his dedication, humility, and love for music would continue to guide him in the years to come. The young pianist understood that life often presents moments of opportunity disguised as ordinary tasks or unexpected challenges. His journey demonstrated that preparation, patience, and the willingness to step into the unknown are essential for achieving extraordinary results. Tidying the stage had seemed like a simple chore, but it became the foundation for a performance that would be remembered and celebrated. He carried this lesson with him, knowing that future successes would also require focus, dedication, and courage. In the quiet moments of reflection, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the chance to perform, for the support of his loved ones, and for the journey that had led him to this point. The experience reinforced his belief in the transformative power of music, the importance of preparation, and the value of seizing unexpected opportunities. He knew that this performance was only the beginning of a long and fulfilling musical journey, one that would continue to inspire him and those who heard him play. The young pianist walked through the city streets at night, the memory of the performance still vivid in his mind. He thought about the audience's reactions, the applause, and the energy of the hall. He realized that true recognition comes not only from others but from within, from knowing that one has given their best, shared their passion, and stayed true to themselves. This understanding gave him confidence and a sense of peace, knowing that he had achieved something meaningful and lasting. He understood that the experience would stay with him forever, a defining moment that marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life. It was a story of talent, dedication, and the unexpected opportunities that can change everything. He felt inspired to continue practicing, performing, and sharing his music, knowing that every note he played had the potential to touch lives and create moments of beauty and connection. As he prepared for future performances, he carried the lessons of that unforgettable day with him. Patience, humility, and courage became guiding principles, shaping his approach to music and life. He understood that talent alone is not enough. It requires readiness, perseverance, and the ability to embrace moments when they arise. The applause and recognition were powerful, but the personal growth, connection with the audience, and affirmation of his dedication were even more valuable. The young pianist looked forward to the future with excitement and determination, knowing that this performance had opened doors, but that continued effort and focus were necessary for lasting success. He understood that life is full of unexpected opportunities, and that the key to achieving greatness lies in preparation, courage, and the willingness to step forward when the moment arrives. He carried this lesson in his heart, ready to embrace whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. The young pianist woke the next morning with a sense of calm excitement. The memory of the previous evening's performance was still vivid, echoing in his mind with every note and every reaction from the audience. He knew that life had changed for him in a single night, yet the reality of it was only beginning to sink in. This performance had not just been an opportunity. It had been a turning point, a moment where years of dedication, patience, and quiet determination had finally met recognition and respect. He felt grateful, humbled, and ready to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. Over the following days, the impact of the performance became increasingly evident. Invitations arrived from concert halls, music schools, and professional musicians. People were eager to work with him, to learn from him, and to witness his talent in person. Each message and call brought both excitement and reflection. He understood that this recognition was more than personal validation. It was a responsibility to continue practicing, growing, and sharing his music in ways that could inspire and touch others. He began preparing for new performances with renewed focus. Each day, he practiced with meticulous care, revisiting difficult pieces, experimenting with interpretation, and striving for perfection. The previous experience had taught him that talent alone was not enough. Readiness, preparation, and emotional connection were equally important. His mindset shifted from simply performing to deeply connecting with every note, every chord, and every pause. Music was no longer only a personal expression. It was a bridge to others, a means of sharing feeling, story, and humanity. The young pianist also noticed the change in the way people treated him. Those who had once overlooked him now sought his insight and admired his dedication. Fellow musicians who had doubted his abilities began to respect him, approaching him with curiosity and admiration. Yet, he remained humble, knowing that recognition was only meaningful if it was paired with continued effort and commitment. He understood that the respect he had earned could be fleeting without consistent work and integrity. He spent time reflecting on how ordinary circumstances had led to extraordinary results. Being asked to tidy the stage that morning had seemed simple and unremarkable, but it had allowed him to prepare mentally and emotionally for the unexpected opportunity. Every small task, every quiet moment of patience, and every hour of practice had shaped him into a musician ready to seize the moment. He realized that life often disguises opportunity as routine work, and those who are patient, disciplined, and attentive can transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. As he traveled to new venues for performances, he noticed the growing admiration and attention from audiences and peers. Each hall, each stage, and each crowd brought its own challenges and excitement, but he approached them with the same focus and determination that had guided him before. He embraced each opportunity as a chance to improve, to learn, and to connect with others. Every performance became a dialogue with the audience, a shared journey through music, emotion, and artistry. The young pianist also began to mentor other aspiring musicians, sharing his experiences and insights. He emphasized the importance of practice, patience, humility, and the courage to take risks when opportunities arise. His story became an inspiration, demonstrating that even those overlooked or underestimated can achieve greatness with dedication and readiness. He encouraged students to embrace challenges, trust in their preparation, and remain open to unexpected chances, illustrating how perseverance and passion could lead to transformative moments. Beyond personal recognition, he found joy in witnessing the impact of his music on others. Audiences responded with emotion, applause, and heartfelt comments, and he realized that the true reward of performance was not fame, but connection. Music became a way to reach hearts, communicate stories, and create shared experiences that transcended words and social barriers. Each performance reminded him of why he had devoted himself to the piano and reinforced his commitment to sharing his gift with the world. Despite the accolades and opportunities, the young pianist remained grounded. He understood that a single performance, no matter how memorable, was part of a lifelong journey of growth, learning, and expression. He continued to practice diligently, study new pieces, and refine his interpretation and technique. The experience of being recognized had strengthened his confidence, but he knew that true mastery required continual effort, reflection, and a willingness to embrace challenges. He also began to value the subtle lessons of life that had led him to this point. The discipline required to tidy a stage, the patience to endure long hours of solitary practice, and the resilience to face doubt and underestimation had all contributed to his success. He realized that personal growth and preparation were as essential as talent itself. By embracing every task, no matter how small, he cultivated readiness, focus, and adaptability, qualities that had allowed him to transform an ordinary day into an unforgettable performance. The young pianist's reputation continued to grow. He performed in new cities, collaborated with renowned musicians, and received invitations to prestigious events. Each performance reinforced his understanding of the power of music, the importance of preparation, and the significance of seizing opportunities. He remained attentive, knowing that each note, each pause, and each gesture contributed to the lasting impact of his work. He reflected often on the moment when his life had changed, the day he had been asked to tidy the stage. At the time, it had seemed unremarkable, even mundane. Yet that small act had been a catalyst, preparing him mentally and physically for the performance that followed. It became a lesson in patience, humility, and the unexpected ways in which opportunity can present itself. He understood that greatness can emerge from ordinary circumstances, and that those who are ready and willing to embrace the moment can transform their lives and the lives of others. In private moments, he revisited the memory of the performance, reliving the intensity, emotion, and connection with the audience. He remembered the silence before the first note, the feeling of the music flowing through him, and the eruption of applause at the end. These memories became a source of inspiration and motivation, reminding him of the possibilities that lay ahead and the power of dedication, passion, and courage. The young pianist continued to challenge himself with more complex and demanding pieces. Each new composition was an opportunity to deepen his skill, enhance his expression, and connect with listeners on a profound level. He embraced every rehearsal and performance with the same dedication and mindfulness that had defined his breakthrough, knowing that each step contributed to his growth as an artist and as a person. He also made time to reflect on his personal journey, acknowledging the obstacles, doubts, and moments of underestimation that had shaped him. These experiences, once seen as challenges or setbacks, now appeared as essential lessons, teaching him resilience, patience, and the value of persistence. He understood that every effort, no matter how small, had contributed to his readiness and eventual success. This perspective reinforced his humility and gratitude, qualities that guided him in both personal and professional life. As years passed, the young pianist's career flourished, marked by continued recognition, meaningful performances, and a growing influence in the music community. Yet, despite the success, he remained grounded, remembering the ordinary day that had sparked the extraordinary moment. He shared his story widely, inspiring others to embrace their talents, prepare diligently, and be ready to seize unexpected opportunities. He became a mentor, a teacher, and a role model, demonstrating that patience, humility, and courage could lead to remarkable transformation. The young pianist often reflected on the lasting impact of that first unforgettable performance. It had changed not only his life but also the lives of those who witnessed it, leaving a memory of beauty, passion, and artistry that endured. He realized that true greatness is not only about skill or recognition but about the ability to inspire, connect, and touch the hearts of others. The lessons learned from that day continued to guide him, shaping his approach to music, life, and the opportunities that came his way. In the quiet moments between performances, he felt gratitude for the journey, for the chance to share his music, and for the people who believed in him along the way. The young pianist understood that success is built not only on talent, but on perseverance, readiness, and the willingness to embrace life's unexpected opportunities. He carried these lessons with him, confident that each new challenge and each new performance would be a chance to grow, connect, and leave a lasting impression. Ultimately, the young pianist came to see that the ordinary and the extraordinary are deeply connected. A simple act, such as tidying the stage, can lead to transformative experiences when combined with preparation, skill, and courage. His story became a testament to the power of dedication, humility, and readiness, showing that true talent can shine in unexpected moments, and that life's most remarkable achievements often begin in the most ordinary circumstances. The young pianist continued his journey with passion, purpose, and the quiet certainty that music, prepared for and shared with authenticity, can change everything.